네, 안녕하세요. 오늘 2020년 10월 6일 애틀랜타 조지아 한인상공회에서 주최 후보자 포럼을 시작하겠습니다. 저는 오늘 사회를 맡은 대외 부회장 미셸 강입니다. 네, 반갑습니다. 네, 오늘 포럼에 참석해 주신 여러분께 먼저 감사 인사드립니다. 이렇게 선선한 가을밤에 저희를 위해서 시간을 내주시고 후보자들에 대해서 알아보는 이 포럼에 참석해 주셔서 감사합니다. 저희가 이번 포럼을 주재하는 목적은 귀넷과 조지아 하원 제101, 102 지구에 거주하는 한인분들이 후보자에 대해 미리 알고 우리 지역사회를 위해 일할 사람을 뽑을 수 있도록 도와드리는 것입니다. 네, 여러분이 잘 아시다시피 투표일은 11월 3일이며 귀넷 트렌치 투표는 투표하실 때 제일 마지막 장에 있습니다. 찬성 혹은 반대를 표기하시면 됩니다. 네, 오늘 이 자리에는 미리 알려드린 대로 귀넷 의장 후보 2명, 귀넷 제1지구 후보 2명, 그리고 조지아 하원 샘박 후보와 홍수정 한인 후보자를 모셨습니다. 귀넷 후보자에게는 3가지 질문이, 또 조지아 하원 후보자한테는 2가지 질문이 미리 전달이 되었고요. 답변을 받아서 한국어로 번역을 했습니다. 각 후보 발언은 화면에서 볼 수 있으니까요. 여러분 화면을 잘 보시면은 후보자들의 답변을 보시면서 어떤 생각을 가지고 있는지 아실 수 있을 거예요. 네, 그 한 후보당 8분씩 시간이 할애되어 있습니다. 네, candidates, thank you very much for your time to meet Korean voters tonight. We have been looking forward to getting to know you and hearing from you. We will begin now. 네, 이제 후보자 포럼을 시작하겠습니다. First, I would like to introduce the president of the Korean Chamber of Commerce of Atlanta, Georgia, Simon Lee. 네, 먼저 이용기 한인 상위 회장님의 환영 말씀이 있겠습니다.
안녕하십니까. 상공회에서 회장 사이먼 리입니다. 링 마지노 상공회에서 회장님, 입후보자 6분 참여 감사드립니다. 함께 참여해 주신 동포 여러분, 각 단체장 임원 여러분, 그리고 상공인 여러분 정말 감사합니다. 우리의 권리를 만들어가는 좋은 계기가 되었으면 합니다. 함께 가십시다. 감사합니다.
네, 이용기 한인 상위 회장님의 환영 말씀이 있었습니다. 네, 감사합니다. 네, 귀넷 상공회의소 닉 마시너 회장님 대신에 오늘 보좌관인 폴 오가 이 자리에 참석을 했습니다. 귀넷 상공회의소는 지난 8월 13일 저희와 양해각서를 사인을 하고 저희의 협력, 그러니까 자매 상공회의소가 되었습니다. 네, I would like to introduce President CEO Mr. Nick Masino of the Korean Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Masino, it is our honor to have you tonight. Korean business owners in Gwinnett are looking forward to hearing from you. Paul, you go ahead.
All right, thanks, Michelle. I'm going to read the statement that Nick's prepared for next meeting. Hello, I'm Nick Masino, and I'm honored to speak with you this evening. I serve as the president and CEO.
Here it is.
The Gwinnett Chamber is 73 years old. We are the largest suburban chamber in the U.S., and we are sister cities with Gangnam-gu in Korea. It is my pleasure to share that Korean American Chamber of Commerce, Metro Atlanta, Georgia, and the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce have entered into a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, between our 2 great chambers. Gwinnett is home to tens of thousands of Korean Americans, hundreds of Korean American businesses, and Korean giants such as Hyundai and Tucson. Our chambers have had a special relationship for over a decade, but it is time to make it even more concrete. I have traveled with past Korean American Chamber presidents to Korea to make businesses and cultural connections. I look forward to working closely with your leadership, and I hope both of our chamber members will connect and benefit by networking together. We will work together to plan 2 events in 2021 for the mutual benefit of both chambers. We are honored that Michelle King has agreed to serve on the Gwinnett Chamber's Board of Directors, representing your chamber. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul, for speaking on behalf of Nick Messina. We miss him. Okay, just say hello to him.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. 먼저 귀넷 의장 후보인 미스 니콜 러브 헨드릭슨을 소개해드리겠습니다. Gwinnett Chair candidate Mrs. Nicole Hendrickson, thank you very much for your participation tonight. I will start with the first question. What is your background and work experience?
안녕하세요. So I have nearly 20 years of experience as a public servant, spanning the vital areas of education, nonprofit, philanthropy, and government. My bachelor's degree is in psychology. I later earned a master's degree in social work with an emphasis in community planning from the University of Georgia. I have served our community through various roles in our local government. Most recently, I was appointed by the Board of Commissioners to serve as our Gwinnett's founding director of our community outreach and spearheaded efforts to engage our community's diverse citizenry, as well as making our government more inclusive and transparent. I commissioned Gwinnett County government's first ever comprehensive platform that allowed diverse citizens to interact with local government, launching programs such as the Gwinnett 101 Citizens Academy, Dinner and Dialogue, and the Gwinnett Youth Commission, all of which were nationally recognized as best in class for citizen engagement. I was the recipient of the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce Public Service Award in 2017, was named Georgia Trends Top 40 Under 40 in 2018, as well as receiving many other local and national awards, recognizing me for my many years of service and dedication to making a difference in the lives of others. I reside in Lilburn with my husband of 8 years and our 6-year-old son.
Thank you, Nicole. And I'm going to ask the second question. What is your detailed strategic plan on how you will help small business owners overcome hardship during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Due to the impact of the pandemic, many small businesses are facing hardships. Here's what we as government leaders can do to help businesses overcome those hardships. We can put an eviction moratorium and prohibition of late fees for small businesses under commercial leases. We can put a moratorium on utility shutoff. Keeping lights, water, and Wi-Fi utilities connected allows businesses to continue operating. And we can delay, reduce, or defer taxes and fee collection. As businesses face severe cash flow difficulties, permanent and temporary deferral or reduction of taxes and fees can provide much needed relief. In addition, financial assistance can be provided to meet financial obligations. The county has applied for federal funding through the CARES Act with relief set aside for small businesses to assist with low to no interest loans and financial grant assistance to aid in payroll and supplier needs. Depending on how long COVID endures, we can look at extending these programs to keep businesses open and people employed. I applaud the businesses who are doing their part to protect the safety and welfare of their employees and their patrons by requiring masks and following CDC guidelines. Helping to slow the spread of this virus will be key to getting our economy back up and running.
Thank you, Nicole, for your answer for the second question. So I'm going to go to the third question. What is your position on the Gwinnett Transit referendum?
Thank you. I am in favor of the transit referendum and will be voting yes in November. For the public, it is a financially and socially conscious option for some commuters, a backup option for others, and the only option for many. It provides basic mobility for people who cannot, should not, or do not have an option to drive. Transit can be an economic development driver in that it helps to create jobs and keeps dollars circulating in the local economy, helps to increase property values of property near transit lines due to the improved mobility options, helps to encourage investment in economically disadvantaged neighborhoods or communities providing access to opportunity, helps to reduce the amount of parking needed due to fewer drivers, and helps to reduce the carbon footprint, traffic congestion, and road maintenance costs due to fewer cars on the road. Transit also generates growth by contributing to thriving economies in communities like ours. And according to the American Public Transit Association, every dollar invested in public transportation generates approximately $5 in economic returns. Every $1 billion invested in public transportation supports and creates more than 50,000 jobs. And transit helps to raise property values. With the growth of our county coming to Gwinnett over the next 10 to 20 years, a comprehensive transit program has to be part of the conversation when we talk about merging and managing our growth. We will not be a connected county without expanded transit options. Voting down the transit referendum would be a significant loss for the future of our county. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for your answers. Just 안녕히 계세요, or it was 반가웠습니다 is in Korean. It was good to see you. Can you try? 고맙습니다 means thank you. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
That was cute.
감사합니다.
Thank you, Nicole, for your time. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
네, thank you. 네, 엄순환 회장님 지금 말씀하실 수 있으세요?
Can you hear me?
예, 네, 잘 들을 수
Oh,
있습니다.
good.
네, 지금 후보자들한테 저희가 그 참석해 주셔서 감사하다는 말씀 좀 해주시길 부탁드립니다.
Okay. Yes, it's my honor to be a part of this event to welcome distinguished guests, state of Georgia official, leaders of our community, and those who wish to. Even with the pandemic, Korean business in Duluth are growing rapidly. So as real estate in Duluth area. Residential home selling is in Duluth bottomed out. Selling residential homes got more money that offer than the asking price. That means people are moving to County, especially Duluth area. With Mr. Lee, president of a Korean American Chamber of Commerce, he has an agenda to make Korean business to be a more successful. Part of his strategy is he wants to open communication channel between political leaders in our community and Korean businesses. With this event, hope we can accomplish. Again, thank you for your participation for this event. I am Suna Om, 19th President of a Korean American Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much.
네, 엄순환 회장님 인사 말씀 감사드립니다. 후보자들한테 아주 그 좋은 말씀을 해주셨어요. Mr. Cochran Carden, this is your turn. So I'm going to ask you your question. 근데 저 두 번째 후보는 귀넷 제1지구의 Cochran Carden 후보입니다. The second candidate is Cochran Carden for the Gwinnett District 1 Commissioner. Mr. Carden, what is your background and work experience?
From an early age, my family taught me the value of hard work, faith, and a dedication to public service. I chose a career in public service to serve the community that made me who I am today. I received my bachelor's degree in political science from Georgia State University. It is through my experience at GSU that I grew as an individual and strengthened my commitment to public service. Immediately after graduating from GSU, I began working for Jacobs Engineering Group as an urban planner, where I worked in zoning and development. In 2017, I was elected to the Duluth City Council, which is the legislative and policymaking body for Duluth, Georgia. Currently, I work with the Georgia Department of Transportation in the Office of Environmental Services.
Thank you, Mr. Carton, for sharing your experience with us. So we're going to go to a second question. What is your detailed strategic plan on how you will help small business owners overcome hardships during the COVID-19 pandemic?
The next group of commissioners must work with Gwinnett's federal and state leadership to ensure our business community and workers receive additional assistance as we continue to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. It is imperative that county leadership work with Gwinnett's business community to enact policies that help our local businesses recover from the current economic downturn, such as temporary reductions in business fees, raising awareness for SBA loans, CARES Act funding, and other forms of relief. While with the right leadership, our small business community will make it through this period of economic hardship.
Thank you for your answer. So your third question is, what is your position on the Gwinnett Transit referendum?
I support the Gwinnett Transit referendum, and I encourage all my fellow Gwinnetians to vote yes on the referendum. Gwinnett's inability to expand mass transit for the last 30 years has cost us jobs. Both West Rock and NCR 2 Fortune 500 companies left Gwinnett for Atlanta so they can be closer to public transportation. Both of these companies are now adjacent to MARTA stations. Other metro counties such as Cobb County and northern parts of Fulton County are strongly considering expanding their public transit system. If we want to give our community a competitive advantage, we have to expand our mass transit. We have to invest in mass transit.
Thank you, Cochran, for your time, for your answer. It was nice to see you tonight. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, our third candidate is the David Post for the Gwinnett chair.
Hello.
Mr. David Post, I'm going
Thank
to
you.
ask the first question. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you tonight. Okay, I'm going to ask you first question. What is your background and your work experience?
Well, at 10 years old, I was working the cash register at my dad's small grocery store in Akron, Ohio. And after my dad died, we had to sell the store because it was too much for my mother to manage with 2 teenage boys and a daughter to raise all alone. When we sold the store, we discovered that my dad, a Golden Gloves champion and a semi-pro football player, a fairly tough guy, was feeding the neighborhood. His heart was as big as his muscles. I learned early on that no matter how much you care, you can't give away the farm. When spending on anything that may have financial or other consequences, there's little room for mistakes. After high school, I served in the United States Marine Corps Reserve for 5.5 years while continuing my education classes in psychology and sociology. I carried on with my higher education when I moved to Georgia with classes at Atlanta Law School, Atlanta School of Biblical Studies, as well as continuing my professional education within my career in law enforcement. I've always been involved in serving the public in the private sector. I started my security and management consulting company in 1972 while still with the Roswell Police Department. I resigned from this position in '73 to work on my growing business full-time, and I became a reserve deputy in 1975. I only just retired a few months ago from being a reserve deputy with Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office this year in order to run for the commission chair position. I believe at 47 years of service, I'm probably the longest serving deputy in the Southeast. I'm now semi-retired and want to continue serving for my 2 daughters, my 4 grandchildren who all live in Gwinnett County, and of course, my community. We're all facing many economic challenges right now as a result of the COVID-19 impact. And I believe that I have the business experience and acumen to attract new businesses, which will drive the revenue within the county without creating additional tax burdens for our citizens.
Thank you for sharing your work experience with us. So I'm going to go over the second question. What is your detailed strategic plan on how you will help small business owners overcome hardship during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, even during the COVID, my #1 priority for Gwinnett County is public safety and improving the existing relationships between law enforcement agencies throughout the county and our citizens. I believe we can achieve this through open communication and community involvement. This priority transcends into all areas and strategies for leading our county and making it successful. I believe the public and the community need to feel safe within our county. I believe that making businesses, retail areas, parks, and recreation areas safer are going to help stimulate the local economy. There's no magic wand, but hard work, great communication, and well thought out programs will do this. After the virus is controlled or even eradicated, things will not be the same for years. If in business, it's extremely important to have a continuation plan. Those running small or large companies, they need to do the same thing as though you were starting a new company. They have to consider the amount of revenue that will be coming in or that they're sure will be coming in. They need to consider it as existing or desired overhead necessary, what staff are needed to properly fulfill the required service or product requirements. Do you have the funds to sustain the operation in its new or existing position? Would you need additional investors or loans necessary to allow time to rebuild or redevelop your new business? Regardless of the size or scope of the future or existing businesses, there must be a line of communication that allows employees to be encouraged, listened to, and feel they're part of the future success of the company. We need to understand, most importantly, that how we interact with employees is now important in this new world than at any time since the Great Depression. As Commission Chair, I'll examine the current and proposed heavy expenditure plans to ensure that they're the best fit and to benefit our citizens and small business owners. I believe that by investing in our existing economically depressed areas, like the Gwinnett Place Mall, we can attract businesses that will provide revenue without us having major capital outlays, as the foundations are already in place.
Thank you for your answer for the second question. 네, 다음은 세 번째 질문인데요. 저희가 귀넷 트랜짓 레퍼런덤 주민 투표에 대해서 물어보고 있습니다. 지금 다 보셔서 아시겠지만 후보자들한테 세 가지 똑같은 질문을 해서 그 질문을 대답을 한 질문씩마다 받고 있습니다. Mr. Post, I'm going to ask you a third question, which is, what is your position on the Gwinnett Transit referendum?
I voted against heavy rail expansion into Gwinnett County when it was on the ballot the last time, and I still don't support it today. We cannot afford to commit our citizens and their children and grandchildren to a sales tax levy that will be in place for the next 30 years for a project that will serve only a small portion of the county. Our previous commissioners voted for and purchased a building down off I-85 and Jimmy Carter with a price tag of $40 million in the hopes that the previous referendum on transportation would pass, and they would use that building for heavy rail. Well, as we know, that referendum did not pass. And currently we have $40 million of taxpayers' money tied up in a building with no purpose at this time. Do you think that's good use of our county's funds? I do not. And these are not the types of transactions and decisions that I'll be looking at as commission chair for both current and future propositions. I do believe that our current transportation plan needs to be revamped and updated. My research thus far indicates that many of the buses in Gwinnett County are running at less than 35% capacity. That is neither good for the citizens nor the economy of the county. I would like to see an expansion into microbuses that can be run at a fraction of the cost of the larger buses we currently have in routes that are not extensively used. It's costing the taxpayers to run the transportation options that we have currently. The revenue from fares is falling way below the cost to provide the service year in and year out by $12 million a year. And now we're looking at a further heavy investment that will pay as the citizens will be paying for the next 30 years. I urge everyone to look at the numbers and make the only decision that makes financial and logical sense for our county. Vote no on the present transportation issues.
Thank you, Mr. Post, for your answer for the third question. 네, 지금까지 3명 후보자에 대해서 각각의 의견이 어떤지 더 들어봤습니다. 이제 귀넷 후보자 중에 마지막 한 명을 남겨놓고 있는데요. 마지막 한 명은 로리 맥클레인 귀넷 제1지구 커미셔너 후보입니다. 다음은 제가 물어보겠습니다. Mrs. McLean?
Hi.
Hi, hello. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Thank you. We love to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask you the first question. Mrs. McLean, what is your background and your work experience?
Thank you for that introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I grew up in Gwinnett County, having moved here in 1976. I went to school here and raised all 3 of my children here. I am a proud product of Gwinnett County Public Schools. I received my Bachelor's of Business Administration and Accounting from Georgia State University in 1985, and I've been a certified public accountant since 1986. I started my own tax practice here in Gwinnett in 1996, and I still enjoy helping taxpayers today. During that time, I also formed a homeowner association management firm, and when I sold that business in 2008, I was managing 27 subdivisions. I attended monthly board meetings and spoke with board members and residents about their concerns over zonings and taxes. So I understand not only the needs of small businesses, but also the needs of residents. I earned my Master of Taxation degree in 2017 from Georgia State and currently teach federal taxation at the undergraduate and graduate levels, along with serving my tax clients. Gwinnett has been my home and my base for over 40 years. I've been very active in Gwinnett through my volunteer efforts for the Hudgens Center for Art and Learning as their treasurer and board member and as a donor for 6 years. I have been a member of the Gwinnett County Chamber of Commerce since 2003 and was their volunteer ambassador of the year in 2007. I was honored by the Duluth Fall Festival Committee and Hugs for Our Soldiers for my efforts to raise funds to transport our soldiers from Fort Benning to Duluth for the festival parade. I have also been a contributor and a volunteer for the Gwinnett Medical Center Foundation's Cornerstone Society. On a government level, I have served on numerous committees. In 2010 and 2011, I was chosen to participate on the Chairman's Budget Review Committee by 2 different county chairs. During those committees, we heard from every department in the county to guide us in recommending budget cuts or increases. I also served on the Engage Gwinnett Committee in 2009 and 2010, which was created to deal with the Great Recession. We invested hours and hours in identifying and vetting recommendations to reduce the cost of government services without reducing the level of service. This is something we may find ourselves resurrecting as a result of the economic effects of the pandemic. Time will tell. Finally, I also served on the Citizens Project Selection Committee for the 2014 and 2017 SPLOSTs, where anticipated SPLOST funds were prioritized toward transportation projects in the county. Notably, these committees are budget and finance related, which is a natural fit for me. The time that I spent on these committees make me uniquely qualified to be a district commissioner. Currently, the entire world is focused on the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been and continues to be an enormous economic drain on small businesses. Gwinnett County has done a great job in obtaining federal assistance for small businesses in Gwinnett. They received more than $20 million that they have made available to small businesses and nonprofit organizations that have been hit hard by the pandemic. We need to continue to apply for and judiciously grant additional funds for small businesses like restaurants and theaters that have been unable to open at full capacity. Once full capacity is restored, it will take months for us to return to business as usual. Because of that, I'm concerned about our economy going into 2021. I'm concerned that owners of rental property will have difficulty paying their mortgages and their property taxes. I spoke recently with a restaurant owner in Duluth that is counting the number of days until she has to close because she cannot open at full capacity. That is why I have already reached out to Gwinnett leadership to ask for deferrals or even abatements of 2021 occupational licenses. I have also asked the tax commissioner to relax collection efforts of real estate taxes. I also support reductions in the cost of liquor licenses. These are the items that impact small businesses the most and is an area where Gwinnett has some flexibility. I believe it will show small business owners that we support them. Another way we can support them is to keep their taxes low, which brings me to 2 tax referendums that are on the November ballot. One of these referenda is the eSPLOST, which directs a 1 penny sales tax toward Gwinnett County's public education system. This is a continuation of the sales tax method we have used for many years to fund our award-winning school system, and I strongly support it. Our education system is one reason so many people choose Gwinnett as their preferred place to live, and I believe keeping it at a high level strengthens our communities more than any other single thing we can do. I strongly oppose the other referendum, however, which is the transportation referendum that will be on the Gwinnett County ballot. I cannot support, and the numbers do not justify, the amount of money that is allocated for heavy rail. To pay $1.5 billion for 4 miles of old, antiquated technology would be a vast waste of resources. I did not mention it previously, but I was chairman of the Gwinnett Transit Review Committee, which was tasked with the job of recommending improvements to the Connect Gwinnett Transit Plan, which was defeated in March of 2019. We were given an incredible amount of information to absorb and analyze during almost weekly meetings, sometimes 3 or 4 hours at a time, for over 3.5 months. I considered the information we were given very thoughtfully and took my duty as a member of the committee very seriously. I also did quite a bit of research on my own and found that with all that information, I could not justify heavy rail. Although we authored a recommendation that included heavy rail, I did not vote for it in the committee, and I cannot vote for the referendum now. I would support a shorter referendum, 20 years or less, that takes heavy rail off the table and focuses on bus rapid transit and improved local service. Very quickly, bus rapid transit is like rail on rubber tires. It includes buses with dedicated lanes and the ability to manipulate traffic lights and avoid traffic congestion. It is incredibly less expensive than heavy rail and much more adaptable to new technology that is right around the corner. I believe we need to focus on the needs and desires of our residents who have made it very clear that they want transportation options, but are not in favor of bringing MARTA to Gwinnett. We can provide a more flexible, adaptable, and less costly system that will be a better fit for the Gwinnett standard we have all come here to enjoy. I thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mrs. McClain, for letting us know your plan. 네, 이것으로 귀넷 후보자에 대해 알아보는 시간은 끝났습니다. 저희가 화면에서 번역을 해서 보여드려서 후보자들이 얘기하는 것을 한국말로 잘 이해하셨기를 저희가 바라겠습니다. 네, 다음으로는 조지아 하원 한인 후보자 순서입니다. 하원 후보자들에게 보내진 질문은 첫 번째, 한인들이 한국어 투표용지 등 한국어 서비스를 받기 위해 후보자는 무엇을 할 수 있습니까? 두 번째는 프레젠트 힐 로드와 세틀라이트 블리바드 지역을 코리아타운으로 지정하는 것이 가능한 일입니까? 네, 그렇다면 후보자는 무슨 일을 할 수 있습니까? 네, 이것에 대한 그 포괄적인 대답을 해주실 건데요. 먼저 조지아 하원 제101 지구의 샘박 후보부터 시작하겠습니다. Mr. Sam Park, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for organizing this fantastic event. 안녕하세요. 저는 유리한 한국계 조지 주 하원 의원입니다. So good evening. My name is Sam Park, the only Korean American legislator currently serving and the first Asian American Democrat ever elected to the Georgia State Legislature. It is my honor to be here with you tonight, and I want to thank everyone who has supported me along the way. I would not be here today if not for you. For the past 4 years, I've had the privilege of representing the heart of Gwinnett County, the cities of Lawrenceville and Sewanee at our state capitol. I've also had the opportunity to serve in leadership as a deputy whip in the Georgia House Democratic Caucus and as vice chair of the Gwinnett County delegation. For those who may not know me, I first ran in 2016 against a 3-term Republican chairwoman after my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Her experience taught me that access to healthcare is a matter of life or death. Her battle inspired me to stand and fight for the 1.4 million Georgians who do not have access to healthcare today. And so against all odds, I decided to stand and fight for the health and well-being of my fellow neighbors. No one recruited me to run, and people in both the Democratic and Republican Party thought I could not win. However, with the clear vision of a better Georgia, grounded in shared values of faith, family, and hard work, with my desire to help my neighbors, I built a diverse coalition of Black, white, Latino, Asian, young and old, conservative and liberal, and together we won and made history. I decided to run as a Democrat because in 2014, Georgia Republicans blocked Medicaid expansion, which would have increased access to healthcare for more than 500,000 Georgians, brought billions of dollars to strengthen our healthcare infrastructure and create more than 30,000 jobs in the healthcare industry. Moreover, the Democratic Party was the only party working to expand access to healthcare in America. You'll hear both Republicans and Democrats say they want to provide everyone with healthcare, but I encourage you to look at what they do, not what they say. Let their actions speak for themselves. For example, it was the Democratic Party that passed the Affordable Care Act, which allowed more than 20 million Americans to obtain health insurance for the very first time. On the other hand, the Republican Party has voted more than 54 times to repeal this law that has helped millions of Americans and have proposed nothing to replace it. Even in the middle of this pandemic, 18 Republican states, including Georgia, are fighting in the courts to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which, if they are successful, will terminate health insurance for millions of Americans. As a new legislator in the Democratic Party, I was pleasantly surprised to learn that the issues I cared about and the concerns that people cared about were the issues the Democratic Party fought for. The Democratic Party did not tell me what to do, and they certainly did not tell me how to vote on legislation that came to the House floor. As a Georgian, a Korean American, as someone who cared about my community, I voted my conscience and my district. I influenced the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party represents we the people. The Democratic Party represents and reflects the diversity of our communities, allowing us to celebrate our cultural and ethnic heritages, and I'm very proud of my Korean heritage, while also uniting us based on our shared American values of liberty, equality, and justice for all. So during the past 4 years, as a proud Democrat in the Georgia State Legislature, I have fought to build a better Georgia, and I hope I have an opportunity to continue to serve to bring about the vision I have for my home state of Georgia. I believe in a healthier, stronger Georgia, where everyone who calls Georgia home has access to healthcare, where they can go to the doctor without worrying about going bankrupt. A Georgia that believes in common sense reforms that will reduce gun violence and keep our community safe, rather than allow guns to be on college campuses, which is exactly what Georgia Republicans did in 2017. I'm working to protect the American dream for the next generation, which for me requires three things. First, to defend our democracy by ensuring every American can vote safely and securely. Second, to invest in working families and provide opportunities for them to work hard and take care of their families. And third, to invest in the education of every Georgian. I was shocked when Georgia Republicans voted to cut $1 billion from our K through 12 public schools just a few months ago. And I know they will continue to cut the education budget because that is exactly what they did after the 2008 Great Recession. For more than a decade, they underfunded education in Georgia, which takes away and limits the opportunities of your kids and the next generation. Lastly, my vision for a better Georgia requires working to fulfill the founding promise of this country by ensuring liberty and justice for all Georgians, for all Americans of every background. During the past 4 years, I've introduced legislation to prohibit discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations. I have fought and defeated Republican-led efforts to attack minority communities and immigrants. And I will always stand and fight so that every Georgian is treated with equal dignity in our state and has an opportunity to pursue their American dream and thrive. As we face the most important and consequential election in our lifetimes, from the bottom of my heart, I want to encourage each and every one of you to use the power you have and to vote for Democrats up and down the ticket. We are facing incredibly challenging times, and we need new leadership. We cannot afford 4 more years of Trump and the Republican Party. They have weakened our nation by allowing the coronavirus to ravage our nation, infecting more than 7 million killing more than 200,000 Americans. This is unprecedented. Rather than take responsibility for their actions, they blame China and Democrats and do nothing. We need leadership that will condemn racism rather than use racist rhetoric such as the China virus, which puts all Asian American families at risk, yours and mine. We need leadership that will unify us as one nation under God if we are to overcome the challenges we face. And we need leadership that will strengthen our democracy by allowing every American to vote so that we, the people, you and me, have the freedom to determine our future. As a voter in America, each of you have incredible power and influence in this country. You have the power to determine who will be our next president, senator, state legislator, and county commissioner. You have the power to influence every issue you care about. If the Korean community wants more services translated in Korean, we can do that. If the Korean community wants to establish a Koreatown in Gwinnett, we can do that. But Korean Americans must rise up and participate in our democracy and vote. Be counted in the US Census and vote, vote, vote so your voice is heard. As Gwinnett County is becoming democratic for the foreseeable future, this is a great opportunity for the Korean American community to be a part of the changing landscape where our political representation better reflects the communities they serve. The Democratic Party is diverse and welcomes all. So I would encourage the Korean community to lean in, get involved, and be a part of the Democratic Party so that together we, the people, have an opportunity to determine our future. As I'll likely be the next chairman of the Gwinnett County delegation next year, I look forward to working with a new Democratic majority in the Gwinnett County Commission to ensure the will of the people is done. So again, now is a time to rise up and make your voices heard. If the Korean community wants to establish a Koreatown, I will do everything in my power to work with state and local Democratic elected officials to get it done. In closing, while these are difficult times, I have faith that we, the people, shall persevere, overcome, and make this nation greater and stronger by working together as one nation to fulfill this country's founding promise of liberty, equality, and justice for all. So thank you so much for your time. 우리 애틀랜타 한인 위해서, 우리 미국 나라 위해서 꼭 투표해주세요. 감사합니다.
네, Mr. Sam Park, thank you very much for your remarks. Okay, the last but not the least, we have Ms. Sue Hong for the Georgia House District 102. Ms. Sue Hong.
네, 안녕하세요. 이렇게 초대해 주셔서 감사합니다. 저 물어보는 거는 먼저 영어로 하고 그 후에 제가 한국말로 다시 하겠습니다.
네, I'm going to ask you a question, specifically the first question. What is your answer for the first question, which is, how can elected officials help the Korean community have more translation services, such as voting ballots in Gwinnett County and Georgia?
So this request has brought to me a lot during the campaigning this year. So I am hearing from a lot of people in the Korean community wishing to vote, but not understanding the process fully or being intimidated about the entire process. So engaging Korean American voters has been a very tough process in the past, but I can see more people wanting and willing to engage in this process. With our growing Korean community here in Gwinnett County, it's important for us to make the voting process easier for the Korean American citizens, and translation services at the voting polls or having Korean translation on the ballots are a way to accomplish this. This Korean chamber has done a great job encouraging Korean Americans to complete the census this year. And under the Federal Voting Rights Act, the number of Koreans that have completed the census may allow this translation of the ballots to happen in the future elections. I am committed to looking into this issue and pushing for easier and better ways for our Korean American community to be engaged in the voting process.
Thank you, Ms. Soo Hong, for the answer for the first question regarding Korean translation services. We're going to go to the second question. Okay, is it possible to have elected officials designated Pleasant Hill Road and Satellite Boulevard area as Koreatown?
I think this is a great idea. Having the third largest Korean community in the United States, with most of the population concentrated here in Gwinnett County, this is a great way to showcase the Korean culture and the commitment by the Korean American business community to the growth of our county and our state. Koreans have brought so much culture and diversity to our state and Gwinnett County. And designating the area as Koreatown is a great way to honor what the community has done to grow our county. I'll work to find ways to bring this legislation forward when I am elected in November. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. 네, 이제 한국말로
네, 안녕하세요. 네, 감사합니다. 이렇게 초대해 주셔서 저는 홍수정입니다. 이번에 102구역 주 하원 의원으로 나온 홍수정이고, 저는 10살 때 한국에서 조지아를 이사 왔습니다. 이제 그래서 조지아에서 거의 30년 동안 살면서 조지아가 그리고 한인 커뮤니티가 많이 크게 되는 거를 갖다가 많이 봤습니다. 그리고 저는 캅 카운티에서 크고 조지아 텍에서 졸업해서 이제 머서 법학교 나와서 이제 거의 10년 넘게 변호사로 하면서 민사법, 형사법을 하면서 사람들을 도와주는 기회가 있었습니다. 그런 기회를 보고 그거를 갖다가 더 크게 하고 싶은 마음이 돼서 이번에 주 하원으로 출마했습니다. 이렇게 이제 처음으로 이렇게 나와서 이제 한인분들이 제일 먼저 이렇게 많이 응원해 주셔서 너무 감사하고요. 그리고 우리 한인 커뮤니티가 gwinnett 카운티에서 많이 크면서 이제 한국 리더도 많이 있어야 된다고 생각합니다. 그래서 제가 주 하원으로서 이제 한국 커뮤니티의 목소리도 되고, 그리고 아무리 샘팍이 이제 민주당이었지만 같이 샘팍하고서는 같이 일하면서 이제 한인분들이 필요하신 거 생각하시는 거를 갖다가 많이 들으면서 도와주고 싶습니다. 요번에 코로나 때문에 특별히 우리 비즈니스 하시는 커뮤니티가 많이 힘들어 하세요. 제가 비즈니스 하는 분들을 갖다가 많이 변호사 일하면서 만나는데 그분들을 위해서 더욱더 이제 세이프하게 우리 경제를 갖다가 다시 키워야 된다고 생각합니다. 우리 경제가 힘이 있어야지 우리도 안전히 더 편하게 할 수 있습니다. 그러니 우리 비즈니스가 천천히 오픈하면서 이제 더욱더 천천히 하면서 우리 주에서 더욱더 도움을 받을 수 있는 그런 일을 하고 싶습니다. 요번에 코로나 때문에 우리 주 버젯도 우리 텍스 내는 그 돈도 어디에 돈을 갖다가 많이 깎았습니다. 그렇게 깎으면서 어디서 낭비가 한다는 것을 갖다가 많이 보게 됐습니다. 그 낭비하는 돈을 다시 받아서 우리 비즈니스 커뮤니티하고 우리가 진짜 필요한 것들을 갖다가 쓸 수 있게 그런 일을 갖다가 이번에 하고 싶습니다. 제가 2008년도에 또 경제가 나빴었을 때 저희 부모님이 잘 못하셔서 그때부터 제가 우리 부모님을 갖다가 같이 살면서 take care 하고 있었습니다. 그래서 제가 이제 노인분들에 대해서도 많이 도와주고 싶은 그런 생각이고, 저희 부모님을 생각하면서 이제 한인분들도 여기서 제가 컸을 때 우리 한인 사회를 갖다가 이렇게 크게 만들어 주신 분들이 지금 노인분들 나이가 되셨는데, 그래서 그 노인분들도 이제 안전하게 이제 또 건강하게 살 수 있는 그런 것을 갖다가 생각하면서 많이 일하고 싶은 생각입니다. 이제 제가 얘기한 대로 이제 변호사 일을 하다 보니 민사법, 형사법을 하다 보니 어떤 것들이 잘 되고 어떤 것들이 체인지해야 된다는 것들을 갖다가 많이 느꼈습니다. 이제 그거를 느끼면서 이제 어떻게 이제 주 하원 돼서 바꿀 거 바꾸고 있어야 되는 거는 있게 우리가 더 안전히 더 좋게 우리 gwinnett 카운티가 더 편하게 살 수 있게 많이 일하고 싶습니다. 제가 요즘에 선거운동을 많이 해서 사람들을 많이 만나고요. 그리고 한인분들 제일 맨 처음부터 많이 도와주셔서 너무 감사하고요. 제가 한 달 후에 이겨서 다시 주 하원으로 뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 홍수정 후보님 말씀 감사합니다. 네, 지금까지 6명 후보의 말씀을 다 들었어요. Thank you very much, candidates, for your time and for your remarks and sharing your thoughts and your plans with us. It was very great time. We were so excited to hear from you and get to know you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
네, 이것으로 애틀랜타 조지아 한인 상공회의소 주최 후보자 포럼을 모두 마치겠습니다. 오랜 시간 후보자들 답변을 주의 깊게 들어주신 여러분께 감사 말씀드립니다. 모쪼록 저희 포럼을 통해서 후보자에 대해서 잘 알아보고 또 우리 지역사회를 위해서 일할 사람을 선택하는 데 도움이 되셨기를 바랍니다. 네, 11월 3일 투표하시는 거 잊지 마시고요. 모쪼록 여러분들 친구 또 친지들과 투표에 대한 중요성을 꼭 나누셔서 우리 한인들이 이번 투표에 아주 역대급으로 많은 숫자가 참여할 수 있도록 한인 사회가 다 함께 일해야 된다고 생각합니다. 네, 지금까지 저는 한인 상공회의소 대외 부회장 미셸 강이었고요. 네, 다시 한번 감사 말씀드리며 저희는 다음번 줌 미팅에서 또 뵙겠습니다. 네, 편안한 밤 되십시오. 이것으로 줌 미팅 모두 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
수고하셨어요.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you, candidates.
네, thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much. We talk to you later, okay?
네, 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening.